Shabbat Tazria u'Metzorah, and the Sabbath right before Yom HaZikaron and Yom Haatzmaut, Israel's Day of Independence. I'm looking forward with tremendous anticipation to our celebration this coming week of Israeli Independence Day. And it's very special to celebrate Israeli Independence Day in Israel itself. What I think about, especially now, but in truth, every morning that I wind my phylacteries, my tefillin, around my middle finger of my right hand, the words of the great prophet Hosea, chapter 2. Ve'erastich li leolam, I, God, betroth you, Israel, unto me forever. Ve'erastich li b'tzedek u'v'mishpat u'v'chesed u'v'rachamim. I betroth you, Israel, unto me in righteousness and in justice, in loving kindness and in compassion. Ve'erastich li be'emunah, and I betroth you, Israel, unto me, not in faith, emunah, but in faithfulness, which is the real meaning of emunah, and in intimately knowing and therefore loving God. This is the expression of Israel's engagement to God, betrothal to God, or said more specifically, God's betrothal of us and our acceptance of God's troth. Because I want to say something to you, and I want you to understand it as well as you can, and I'm sure you do. Parshat Tazria speaks of circumcision. And the mitzvah of circumcision is a very difficult one. What it really says is that the eternity of Israel, the continuity of Israel, is mostly expressed by the drop of blood which takes place in every circumcision, and in the very organ of propagation of Jewish continuity, and at the birth of every child with the mother's giving of blood. And of course the verse from Ezekiel, by your blood shall you live, by your blood shall you live. On the one hand, we are God's chosen people, and chosen to lead the world to proper conduct which will result in redemption. But at the same time, Isaiah 53, we have to suffer greatly. That seems to be the Jewish fate, because the world is not interested too much in learning our morality. And then comes the prophet Hosea with a promise. God says, I shall betroth you unto me forever. That there'll be backsliding on both sides. A covenant is a two-way street, like every engagement, and marriage is a two-way street. God being the groom and Israel being the bride. And certainly there will be backsliding, but there will always be forgiveness. And ultimately, we will move towards redemption. So it's not easy to be a Jew, and it hasn't been easy to be a Jew. But we are living in a very blessed generation. We're living in the blessed generation that sees the beginning of the fruition of God's promised betrothal. We're living in the generation only 72, 73 years after the Holocaust, when we have merited to see the destruction of Hitler and Nazism, just as those who wish to destroy us in every generation were eventually destroyed, and we were able eventually to triumph, but never to the extent of our triumph today after 2,000 years. We've returned home, and we have a strong and powerful army, and we have a great startup nation. And there's more Torah being learned in Israel than ever before in Jewish history. And in many respects, we're leading the world against the oppressive leadership of countries like Iran and the former Soviet Union. And when we celebrate this year Yom Haatzmaut, Jewish independence, and understand that we have triumphed over Nazism, this to a great extent is a vindication of all of Jewish history and God's promise to us. The Hebrew word emunah, faith, sometimes is taken to mean that a Jew who has faith believes everything will be all right at the end for him or for her. That's not what it means. Emunah comes from the Hebrew in Parashat B'Shalach that Moses' hands were emunim, were steady, were faithful. That God is steady and faithful towards us. He will ultimately redeem us and bring us back to Israel. And we are steady and faithful to God, that we will continue to keep His commandments in every generation. That faithfulness is what we are witnessing in our generation. And that faithfulness is a magnificent statement of the real truth of the biblical promise, and the real truth that we are the beloved people of a compassionate God who ultimately promises that His nation will lead the whole world in peace. And we can begin to believe it because the distance between the Holocaust and the establishment of the State of Israel is a far greater and longer distance than to the establishment of the State of Israel and the period of ultimate redemption for humankind. If we could live to see that, please God, we can hope to see the true culmination of redemption in our time and very soon. Shabbat Shalom.